Somebody said that her mother taught her that sex is dirty, dangerous, and degrading, and you should save it for the one you love. Now that's a mixed message if I've ever heard one. When I was growing up, they used to show us movies in school, this is back in the 70s, that taught us that if we tried any drugs, that we might jump out of a 10-story window, or we might kill ourselves or kill our parents. The problem was that as we got older, and we would see people smoking pot, and they weren't jumping out windows or killing anyone, and then we no longer knew what to believe. Not about marijuana, not about LSD, not about heroin, because they lumped them all together in these films. And so kids got into trouble because they didn't have the information they need. And that's why the best thing we can do is give our children accurate and true information and education about sex and drugs and alcohol and set clear limits. I think we should expect our children to wait until they're adults to try alcohol or have sex. And we should clearly and candidly tell them why we think that. Share with them the knowledge that they need to stay safe and the wisdom to wait. My point is that while our culture offers us misleading messages, the brick wall approach does too. But then again, when it comes to those of us who consider ourselves religious liberals, if we're not careful, we have a tendency to draw timid little lines instead of erecting good guardrails. Imagine if the city of Amsterdam decided instead of guardrails, they would paint faint gray lines just to suggest that maybe cars might want to consider stopping before falling over the edge. That's why religious liberals are teased for calling the 10 Commandments the 10 Suggestions. It's funny because it's kind of true. Right? Because religious liberals are not predisposed to seeing things in black and white. For us, the wise answer to most questions is, it depends. The problem with this, however, is that we can get caught in a gray fog. It's hard to see guardrails when there's too much fog. But even worse, if there's only a faint line painted on the side of the road along the edge of a cliff, that's what we do when we fail to set personal standards for ourselves, or when we fail to give our children guardrails. I talked to one person not that long ago who stopped coming to this church a couple of years ago with his children. It was great to see him. He's someone who I like a lot, and I asked him how's his family. And he mentioned that one of his children, a new teenager, was having trouble. He said that he doesn't seem to have a good moral compass. So I said, why don't you bring him back to church? His answer was, I don't think my child would come. And I said, why make it optional? Your child could choose to go to Sunday school with the other children his age or come into our sanctuary, but whether or not to come to church should not be a choice that you give your child. But some parents have trouble creating clear standards for their children, and then they wonder why they don't have a moral compass. It's like letting our children drive on a cliff where there's no guardrail, only a faint painted line. The thing is that either we have these battles with our children in a safe and a loving environment of our home and our church during the years that we have them in our care, or we let them loose into a society where they will end up having these battles. She knows what's coming. We either have these conversations, right, in the safe and the loving environment of our homes and our church when we have our children in our care, or we let them loose into a society where they'll end up having to have these battles someday in some way with somebody, but the stakes will be much higher, and the people around them won't necessarily love them or care about them in the way that we do. Now, I know some young people who are paralyzed and others who are in prison because they never learned to create guardrails. I know some adults who can't keep relationships together because they won't be faithful or trustworthy or honest. They would never, ever want their wife or their children or their grandchildren to act the way that they do, but they won't stop it. It's sad and it's heartbreaking to watch people hurt each other in these ways. What we need to think about before we cheat or steal or lie or allow ourselves to act on some temptation that we'll regret is, would I want to tell the people who I respect most that I did it? That's a guardrail. Because if we are about to do something that we know that we wouldn't want to tell somebody who we respect, and we want to hide it from them, then that's a warning that we're coming close to the edge of danger. Part of this is about what kind of friends we have. Do you surround yourself with people who share your values? Are you surrounding yourself with people who are on the same path as you are on? Not the exact same path, but on a spiritual path of some kind, on a path of continual lifelong learning and growth, on a healthy direction in their life? Are they trying to grow in their relationship with God or what's ultimate in life? Are they trying to eat well and exercise? It's not a litmus test for who we should be friends with, but we're influenced greatly by the people who we spend time with. Right? And spending time with, are you spending time with people who you respect and people who you want to emulate? It's one of the reasons that I encourage everyone in this church to be part of a small group of some kind, a branches group or a men's group or a women's group or a choir. Because these connections not only expand our pool of relationships, but they also include people who are on a path of healthy learning and growing in their lives. I mention occasionally that I'm in a men's group that meets once a week. And one of my guardrails is that I'm committed to sharing all of the details of my life with this group. And I don't ever want to do anything that I would be ashamed to share with them. My connection with these men help nurture the better angels of my nature. Now, if you're friends with people who don't care about their relationships, who don't care about their health, who don't care about their own money, then they're not going to care about yours.